everyone who has joined us today and who are going to be watching on the video once we get it posted. A first-hand account of being locked behind closed doors. I've been locked in my apartment with my wife and child for more than a month, and I have had to take more than 20 COVID tests during this time. Government health workers appear in white suits every other day, and neighborhood wardens use megaphones to summon everyone outside to take their tests. There's more than 1,000 people living in my complex, and everyone complies. Chinese people in general are pretty obedient. Privately, many Chinese friends tell me they don't like the procedure and the lockdown, but believe going along with it is the quickest way back to normality. Almost all apartments in Shanghai are in gated compounds, so it's pretty easy to keep people corralled as there are walls all around. I used to think that this was a good thing in general, as it was secure, until I saw the huge steel mesh wire fence being bolted into the ground in front of the entrance at the beginning of the lockdown, physically sealing us in. Talk about a sense of foreboding. Now we can't even get outside except for COVID tests or to pick up food deliveries, which are passed up over the fence. That's if food arrives. Things have eased off this week, but last week we had serious problems ordering food online and were surviving on government handouts. The lockdown meant most delivery drivers weren't working, so there was plenty of food, but we couldn't get our hands on it. We weren't alone. My social media were full of angry, sad, bewildered Chinese friends asking where their next meal would come from. In one of the most modern, connected cities in the world, used to being able to order anything online and have it turn up on their doorstep soon after, this is nothing short of traumatic. And there's been more than a few viral videos passed around of people being dragged, kicking and screaming from their apartments because they have tested positive to be taken away to someplace much worse. To be locked away by choice or against one's will. What a dilemma. But let us sing about something happy. That's all right. We were going to sing a really happy morning. Pardon? Let's do that thing instead? Okay.
Welcome, happy morning.
Yeah, I think we should.
Oh, sorry.
For anyone who hasn't been here in the last few weeks, we're just getting used to doing this once again after 2 years. This playing of things in the order that it's written.
That's a nice way of saying it.
Encounter the risen Christ in what we say and do as his hands and feet and voice.
May we be encouraged in doing these things by the ever-present Spirit in our lives.
Let us sing 164, Day of Resurrection. Jesus. Once things had settled down and the disciples unlocked the door to the upper room, there were great changes in your followers' lives to come. Despair would be replaced by joy, death replaced by new life. New realities would be questioned, and faith would come alive in the testing. Peace would enter minds and hearts, replacing old anxieties. New enthusiasm would become contagious and a possibility. All we ask is that these things too may happen to us. That's all. Not only as we gather like your first followers seeking your guidance, but also as we struggle with the locks that we have sealed our lives closed with against unwanted changes in our lives. These words and pleas we offer as we welcome your Spirit, as we sing, pray, and reflect on the words passed on to us through the centuries, especially the ones given to us that unite us into one community of faith.
This week's reading is from John 20, verses 19 to 31. On the evening of that first day of the week, when the disciples were together, with the doors locked for fear of the Jewish leaders, Jesus came and stood among them, and he said, "Peace be with you." After he said this, he showed them his hands and side. The disciples were overjoyed when they saw the Lord. And Jesus again said, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you." And with that, he breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive anyone's sins, their sins are forgiven. If you do not forgive them, they are not forgiven." Now Thomas, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my finger where the nails were, and put my hands into his side, I will not believe." A week later, his disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here in my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." Thomas said to him, "My Lord and my God." Then Jesus told him, "Because you have seen, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which were not recorded in this book, but these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. And we know that we are blessed in the reading of these sacred words, and now are pondering on them in light of our own lives.
It's been 1 week since the last Easter. 1 week since the chaos and the excitement. 1 week since the empty tomb. 1 week since our first hallelujah, Christ is risen, the Lord is risen indeed. 1 week since we ate our first piece of chocolate in the Easter Bunny's name. And likely there are still more pieces to consume. But even more surprising is that it's 1 week after the resurrection and the disciples are in the same place they were Easter night. They are in the same room that they were last Thursday, and now the doors are bolted shut. So the question we need to ask is, if the resurrection is such a big deal, such a life-changing event, why are they still stuck in the same place? What difference has the empty tomb made? Did it change them? Has it let them see themselves and their world differently? Has it done anything for them? Doesn't look like it. They're in the same house, behind the same locked doors as a week ago. Nothing seems changed. And for us, 1 week after Easter, what has Christ's resurrection done for us? Are our lives different? Do we now see and engage the world in new ways? What difference has the empty tomb made in our lives over the last week? For me, my life looks pretty much a whole lot like it did last Sunday and the week before and the week before that. When I look at the wider world, it looks pretty much the same as before. Wars, civil unrest, greed, oppression, hunger, balanced by some humanitarian efforts to help those most in need. I guess it was the same for the guys stuck in the same place they had their last supper with their friend. And my first impulse is to be critical of them. They should have done better than that, I think. After all, death has been defeated. Christ is risen, hallelujah. So why aren't their lives different? But then I could ask this every Easter about my own life. Why am I not changed even a little after Easter? Why is it that a week after I'm stuck in the same place going about my business as usual? I should have been moved to live the resurrection better, more powerfully, more fully, more authentically than what I am. After all, the resurrection is a big deal, no matter how we personally understand it. The empty tomb is a life-changing event. It should make a difference in our lives. But like any major event in our lives, with all of its bits and pieces, the effects of any life-changing event usually take time until they have their full effect. Nothing is instantaneous. Resurrection, whether we consider it a renewal, a revival, a rebirth, a restoration, is going to take time. It's not a one-off event, immediate event. It's something we grow into. It's a process of growing into a new way of being and living our lives. It's allowing ourselves time to grow into it, to evolve into resurrected people through changes, developing of new relationships, finding new ways to spend our time and talent serving others. God wastes nothing. Every day we should be stepping into that resurrection life more and more. It's not always easy, and some days are just plain hard or challenging. I wonder if we don't come on Easter Sunday and all the meaning of the empty tomb anticipating any real change in our lives. That we're content just to wake up Easter morning to the same life and the same world that we had on Good Friday, even after a lot of sung hallelujahs and eating of chocolate and the good feast that we have with family. That's what happened to most of us, I expect. But it's not because the resurrection failed or Jesus didn't do the Jesus thing in our lives. I think we forget that the Jesus thing takes more time, especially for some rather than others. Some of us have been working at it for years. You know, in a way, I think we might get too caught up in the facts of the Easter story. Like the empty tomb. We can see it. I imagine the linens lying there, though I see them in a bundle, not all neatly folded like John imagines. I see stains on them of blood and body fluids. And then I wonder, did Mary take them home and wash them and put them away as a keepsake? Did she forget about them after a while? I get caught up imagining how and who physically rolled the stone away. But these are all just facts. Maybe we need to start claiming the story of the resurrection. Because there's a difference between facts and a story. Facts are one-dimensional. Stories are multidimensional. Facts inform the mind. Stories touch the heart. Facts transmit information. Stories transform lives. Think about it like this. A fact is static. It's like a snapshot of a particular moment in time. A story's dynamic, like a movie that takes us through time. The empty tomb is a fact. The resurrection is a story. Maybe we need to begin to understand resurrection as the movie of our life instead of a snapshot of Christ's life. The fact of the empty tomb is not the story of the resurrection. The facts of Jesus' life are not the story of Jesus. The facts of your life and my life are not the story of our lives. The facts are just the starting point for the story. The fact of the empty tomb is only the starting point for the resurrection story. Whatever facts you woke up to on Easter Monday are simply the starting point of your resurrection story. Too often, however, we take the facts as the entire story. And after Easter Sunday's over, we say the end. Isn't that what we've done with Thomas? What facts come to mind when you hear his name? Well, of course, he was a doubter. Unless I see the marks of the nails on his hands and put my finger in the mark of those nails in my hand and his side, I will not believe. That Thomas doubted may be the only fact that comes to mind. It's so prevalent that we call him Doubting Thomas. What if that fact, however, is just the starting point of his resurrection? What if it's not the whole story? What if where we start is less important than where we go, where we end? Do you know the end of the Thomas story? Do you know where he died? Well, the story goes that he died in India. They brought the gospel of Christ to the people of India. That he died a martyr after he was run through with 5 spears by 5 soldiers. It doesn't sound like much of a doubter, does it? Sounds like someone who grew and changed. Someone for whom the resurrection of Christ was real. Someone for whom the empty tomb made a difference. It just took a little time, as it does for most, maybe all of us. So we know Doubting Thomas, but let's not forget Confessing Thomas. He's in our gospel as well. My Lord and my God. With those words, Thomas recognized and named a new relationship, a new worldview, a new way of being. Somewhere between Doubting Thomas and Confessing Thomas is the story of the resurrection in Thomas's life. All that stuff about Doubting Thomas, the fact of his disbelief, is just Thomas's starting point. Nothing more, nothing less. It's neither good nor bad. It's a starting point. And we all have our starting places. What's your starting place? What are the facts of your life today? The starting place for the story of our resurrection is whatever is. Whatever your life is today, whatever your circumstances are, that's the starting point for your resurrection story. So if you're dealing with deep loneliness, sorrow, or loss, that's your starting point. That's the room which Jesus enters. If you're locked in the house of fear and confusion or darkness, that's your starting point, and that's the place in which Jesus stands. If illness, old age, disability, or uncertainty about the facts of your life, that's your starting point and the place in which Jesus shows up. If you are lost, betrayed, disappointed, overwhelmed, that's your starting point, the house Jesus enters. If joy and gratitude and celebration are the facts of your life today, that's the starting point of your story of resurrection. All those things I just described and 1,000 others are the many ways the doors of our homes get locked. Whatever it might be for you, it's just the starting point. The great tragedy is not that the disciples are in the same house behind the same locked doors. That's just their starting place. The great tragedy would have been if the disciples refused to unlock the door, refused to open the door, refused to get out of the house. What are the doors that are locked in your life? What are the things that have kept you stuck in the same place? I'll say it again, that's just the starting place. Don't judge it as good or bad, right or wrong. It's just where you are, and it's the place Christ shows up. It happened twice in today's gospel. Both times the disciples are in the same house behind the same locked doors, and Jesus shows up. He stands in the midst of them. The walls and the locked doors of their house couldn't keep him out. The walls and the locked doors of your house and my house will not keep him out. He steps into the midst of our houses through the locked doors and breathes peace and life into us. He breathes peace and hope into us. He breathes peace and courage into us. He breathes peace and strength into us. And that breath of peace is the key that unlocks the door. So take a deep breath. Take it all in. Let it fill and enliven you. Let it give you the hope and courage and strength to unlock and open the doors of your life and then get out of the house. Open the doors to the story of your resurrection and get out of the house and let your stories evolve and change. Let's sing. In this time together, we have brought our treasures, all that we have and all that we are to share. So may we now ask for blessing on them. On our own, what we have to give doesn't amount to much in the light of all that we have been given and in the face of so much need. Put together as a congregation, what we offer you here in love becomes more. Not simply added together, but somehow multiplied in its usefulness.
We ask you to bless our gifts, so that there will be enough to bless others and to meet their needs. Amen.
sorry, when you were dickering a little bit, saying April showers at the beginning, I thought that is it. And I thought, oh, that's pretty lackluster. I didn't realize you were just practicing. So you can play April showers at the end. That would be nice. Not anticipating April showers at this point. Yes, okay. So the annual meeting after the service won't take long, I promise you, and there's food down there to sustain you. It's all about what happened last year, not what's going to happen next year, okay? Books for the lending library. Thanks to Randy, the bookcase is now up and down there. So please, bring in the books that you're no longer needing. Current books, please. Ones that perhaps have a little bit of a challenging message that we could discuss. Knit and Natter and other things are happening on Wednesdays at 1:30. Bring a friend. Celebration of Life service for Aaron Montmany is will be at the arena next Saturday at 2 p.m. We had an excellent speaker at the Horticulture Society last week, and I'm sorry, I can't find I can't find my things.
I didn't do it.
You didn't touch it? Promise? Norma cleans. All my Easter bunnies disappeared. Okay, don't remember that. Yeah, I mean, I can search this place up and down sometimes and not find my things, and it's all Norma. Okay, I had some pamphlets from the man. Did you, Jim, what's his name?
Tony Gerling,
Tony
a
Gerling.
high school teacher.
He's a high school teacher over at school, but he has a tree care business.
Yes.
And Tony comes from the south, and he loves trees, and he won't kill them if he doesn't have to, and he wants to care for them and prune them nicely and help us understand how we need to prune them if we're going to, and how to care for them and what to plant and what not to plant. He talked to us about diseases, and yeah, he answered all of our questions. Some I didn't want to hear, the ones about cutting down a tree. Yeah, but I did leave some pamphlets downstairs. So they're somewhere, I guess. If Norma didn't throw them out, they're somewhere. What we didn't discuss, Jean, was about the garden of the year. This is the year of the garden. I saw it in a what's that called? An email from Bonnie that we were supposed to discuss it, and it was this year is the year of the garden.
That's a Canadian effort,
Yeah.
not local.
No,
well, we
okay.
could do it
Yes,
locally.
yes. So this is the year of the garden, and we're supposed to plant red.
Kind of red.
So if you want to get in with it, plant your garden, plant red. Oh, come on, Dorothy, you can do it for 1 year. Yes. Yes. Sharon's going to spray all of our things red for us. So watch out. Is there anything else that's going on that we need to talk about? Okay. Okay, that's great. Other than the fact that my computer has been doing weird things. So this morning I went to print off everything, and I said one-sided only, and it printed it off on twice. So that's why we keep flipping these pages, which doesn't seem very holy, you know. Yeah, but anyways, okay, now we'll pray. God of resurrection power, we believe and give thanks that life and love, with capital L's, are words that describe your very essence, which dwells in our world. You are the source of all life and all true love, found evident through us, your people. And we rejoice in the mission we've been entrusted with. But we also admit that sometimes we're assailed with doubts. We wonder why the world is filled with so much anger and hatred and war and civil unrest if you are love and we are your emissaries. We wonder why it's a place marred by disease and death, groaning from misuse if you are life and we are the nurturers you entrusted with its care. We wonder why disasters happen. Earthquakes, flooding, tornadoes, if you are the creator of all that is good. All these are our realities that make some wonder if you are truly there. But where's there? Only we can be the ones who carry love out to the world. Only we can be the compassionate ones who care for those in need when tragedies and disasters strike. Only we can be the ones who adhere to restrictions which can keep us all safe from disease. You are there because we have chosen to follow your Son. Even as imperfect humans, we try our best, but perhaps not always achieve that. But we try our best to discern where best to serve, how to serve everyone, not just ourselves and those closest to us. Help us to work through our doubts, God. Open our eyes to see evidence of the love and compassion others share because they are workers in the here and now. Help us to understand that it is when we abuse our freedoms, make poor choices, that we cause the darkness and destruction on all of your creation. Close to home, we keep in our prayers this week Jean Donaldson's husband, who is still waiting for an appointment that hopefully will lead to restorative heart surgery. Some folks who are seeking clarification of their health worries. Janie, who joins us on Facebook. Liz's sisters, who's having surgery on Tuesday. The Nowry family on the loss of their husband and Father John, a faithful steward of the land. Those with ongoing health concerns which are draining emotionally and physically, and those who love and care for them. And those with mental health issues, long-standing or newly felt for any variety of reasons, and those who worry and care for them. As we look ahead, we can be left doubting what the future holds for the church when some have chosen to let loose the ties that have bound them to this or any other community of faith. As we attempt to determine if we are called to minister in new ways, well, we often can't find you in our minds and hearts. But let your Spirit creatively nudge us into action as Jesus wanted, in ways which declare to all that we are your people and we are not alone to do your Son's work. Amen.
You will
May we leave to dare to believe in things we can't see, faith, hope, and love, except through the good works that we and others do in his name. May we dare to believe that another world is possible, where peace reaches into every corner, even the corners of our minds and hearts. May we dare to believe in heaven on earth, where justice and compassion are experienced by all right now. And a little different song, but familiar.